We're starting now. Hello, everyone. We apologize for the bit of delay there. Thank you all for joining us this lunch hour. And welcome to another edition of New Media Manitoba's Network Speaker Series. My name is Ajibola Akidipe. I'm the Academic Liaison at New Media Manitoba. NMM is the Sector Council for Information, Communication, and Digital Technologies. We are a nonprofit organization that has the mandate to grow the interactive digital media industry here in Manitoba. The New Media Manitoba office is located on Treaty 1 land, the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Dene, Dakota, Ojibwe nations, and the homeland of the Métis. Today's topic is blockchain and games, building the metaverse with Sheila Harris. Please be aware that this event is being recorded. Sheila Harris is an experienced management consultant, business architect, project manager, and change management specialist with over 20 years of experience in the design and delivery of IT solutions to meet business requirements. She has successfully deployed IT solutions in healthcare, telecommunications, financial services, public insurance, municipal utilities, digital agriculture, vertical farming, and medical research industries with specialization in system selection, initiation, development, deployment, and business adoption. Sheila has also worked with a startup company developing an AI bot specializing in recommending cryptocurrency merging trades. She started her career as a software developer and has worked in information technology as a senior IT consultant, specializing in business transformation projects for over a decade. Sheila has taught business systems design in Red River College Business Analyst Program and has sat on the steering committee for the program. She's also an accomplished thought leader, inspirer, speaker, mentor, and most recently, an editor to a first-time writer. There's a Q&A icon at the top right corner of your screen. Please add your questions at the end of the session for Sheila, and NMM's Jonathan Lee will be joining Sheila to moderate the Q&A session. Sheila, thanks for your time with us today. I'll now pass the virtual mic to you, and let's get started.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the introduction. I'll go ahead and share my screen now, and we got a lot of material to cover, so we're just going to jump right into it. Okay. All right. So I think everyone can see my screen now. I'm just going to go ahead and get started. Our topic today is blockchain and gaming, building the metaverse. So we're going to go over blockchain fundamentals. We're going to do an overview of blockchain gaming, talk about some non-fungible tokens and what that looks like, talk about some DAOs and governance, and a DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization. And we're going to look at the play-to-earn models that are happening in blockchain gaming right now. And all of that is leading up to how does this all fit into this concept of the metaverse that's getting a lot of attention these days. So this is a quote from the NASDAQ chief executive, Bob Greenfield, and he said, "Blockchain is the biggest opportunity set we can think of over the next decade or so." So let's talk a little bit about some blockchain fundamentals to begin with. So how does blockchain work? Well, in a blockchain network, the transaction is requested and the transaction is broadcast to a peer-to-peer network of computers, and these are known as nodes. And every computer in the network has a complete copy of the blockchain. And this is the decentralized part of it, blockchain. So there's not a single organization that's owning the blockchain. It's a peer-to-peer network. So the whole network of nodes will validate the transactions using the known algorithms. And then the transaction will be combined with other transactions, and it creates a new block of data that's put on the ledger. Once the block of data is added to the blockchain, it's permanent and unalterable. blockchain, once created, is immutable, which means it can't be changed. And nodes have to be verified by the network. And there's been some numbers tossed around by this, but generally speaking, about 95% of the network has to verify the node for it to be added to the blockchain, to be verified. So some properties of this distributed ledger technology, which is blockchain, is that it's programmable, and that's done via smart contracts. And I'll do a quick bit on smart contracts in a little bit. It's secure in that all of the records are encrypted individually. It's anonymous, as in you can own blocks on the blockchain, and it's associated to keys that are not publicly known. And it's unanimous. So that's the whole peer-to-peer network piece, where all the nodes have to validate the transactions. It is distributed, like we said. Everyone has a copy of it. It's immutable. The records, once they're there, can't be changed, and it's time-stamped. And again, the timestamp can't be changed either. So there's no messing around with the data on a blockchain. Once it's there, it's the data. So compared to conventional transactions are centrally managed and usually have a third-party central body that is managing that and verifying that, like a bank, for instance. When you send an e-transfer, the bank has to verify that you have the funds in your account to send it. And then the transaction's basically executed when the bank says, yes, this is complete. And in those transactions, there's a high level of security that's required. Now, with blockchain transactions, it's a distributed ledger, so everyone has a copy. There's no central body. The electronic signatures, as the blocks are put on the chain, prevents tampering. So the security is really good on a blockchain. There's no third-party required, so you don't need a bank to verify a transaction or any kind of middleman. And then basically the transaction's completed, not when the third party validates it, but when the peer-to-peer network validates it. So some of the benefits of blockchain and some of the unknowns. With the blockchain, there is increased transparency because it is a public ledger. There's accurate tracking. It's a permanent ledger. Again, once the records are in there, they can't be altered. And it will reduce costs because you don't require middlemen. You don't require additional infrastructure to verify transactions. It's all done within the same network. Now, some of the challenges or unknowns around this are it's a very complex technology. So in order to understand blockchain, it takes a lot of work. Trust me on this. I've been researching it for years, and I'm still fuzzy on some things. It's difficult. There's some regulatory implications. It's kind of the Wild West in a lot of areas right now. People aren't quite sure how to regulate this industry. There's a lot of unknowns around that. Of course, it's a big change to implement this in any kind of a business or to switch over to this model. And of course, as always, there's competing platforms that you could implement rather than use the blockchain technologies. So with smart contracts, this is a programmable part of the blockchain. Basically, it's an agreement between two parties in the form of computer code. So smart contracts are programmed on the blockchain and they're stored in the public ledger. Smart contracts can't be altered once they're put in place. And with the blockchain processing of the smart contracts, what this means is that, like we said, the transactions are completed with no third-party verification. So it happens within the network on the peer-to-peer. And because of the way that the smart contracts are programmed, it's all about the kind of the business logic of when is this contract completed. The transaction will only be validated and completed when the conditions in the agreement are met. So there's no trust issues here. There's no ability to fraud or fool the system. The conditions have to be met as per the programming. Of course, you have to program it properly for that to happen. So what does that actually look like? So this is a very simple example of a smart contract. So Mary's going to take a flight from Winnipeg to Toronto, and she wants to purchase some insurance for her flight in case she misses her flight or the flight is canceled. So she sends $5 to a smart contract, $5 in cryptocurrency to a smart contract. The insurance company, whichever insurance company she's working with, will send $95 to the same smart contract. So if the flight's on time, the insurance company will collect that $100 from the smart contract, and it gets sent to them automatically once it's confirmed that the flight was canceled or the flight was on time. But if the flight is late, then Mary will be sent the $100 from the smart contract. And neither the insurance company nor Mary has to do anything in order to collect that $100. It's once the condition of the contract is met, that money is sent. So everything's automatic. There's no intermediaries. There's no a person verifying it. It just, once the flight data is known, on time or not on time, that contract completes, the transaction's completed, the money is sent, and Bob's your uncle. So that's kind of how that works. It's a very simple example. There's obviously, much more complex, versions of smart contracts that can be programmed, but that should give you the basic gist of a smart contract. In terms of blockchain technologies, the industry is evolving really, really rapidly, and there's new lines of business, there's new applications, new use cases being developed every day. But overall, one of the key fundamental evolutions in the industry is moving from proof of work to proof of stake. So right now with proof of work, the way that model works is the mining capacity depends on your computational power. So basically you're running computers to solve a puzzle or basically an algorithm. And then once you do, you receive that block reward, and that's your, cryptocurrency. So with this proof of work model, hackers need to have a computer more powerful than 51% of the network to do a malicious block. So this is a 51% attack. It's a little complicated, but ultimately it is vulnerable with this proof of work model. It's vulnerable for that 51% attack. With proof of stake, validating depends on the stake in the network, as in how much block or cryptocurrency you already have on that network. So the validators are not solving an algorithm to receive a reward. They're basically collecting transaction fees. So basically the way this works is you're staking a node in that you have cryptocurrency on a blockchain that you're staking. And it's almost like earning interest. You get rewards for having that node on the network. So the way that proof of stake works in terms of being vulnerable is that if you wanted to hack it, you'd have to own 51% of all the cryptocurrency on that network, which is basically impossible given the size of the blockchain. So it's a lot more secure from that sense. So proof of work versus proof of stake. With proof of stake, it's a lot more eco-friendly because minimal computing resources are required. You can run, nodes right on your home computer, which is running anyways. Generally, it's decentralized. There are some blockchains that are moving more towards centralization, which is sort of against the basic tenets of it, but it's an interesting model. You don't need a lot of technical knowledge to run proof of stake, to run nodes. And basically with that, once you set your nodes up and you're staking them, you just set it and forget it. It just works. With proof of work, we know that one of the big concerns around blockchain is that the energy usage. So, right now, cryptocurrency under the proof of work model uses enough energy to power a small country. It does incentivize the centralized mining farms. So we've heard about these big, Bitcoin operations and cryptocurrency operations that are running, hundreds and thousands of computers and using up all this energy. You need a lot of advanced technical knowledge to set up these, miners, or even to set up a computer to be a miner. And then you have to constantly tweak and monitor your hardware setup and how things are running. So proof of work is not a good model for a lot of reasons. So as we move from proof of work to proof of stake, and this is happening on the Ethereum network, the Ethereum blockchain protocols, it'll solve the scalability challenge, because that is a challenge that actually was encountered via blockchain video games, which I'll talk about in a little bit. It further is decentralizing the network with additional layers. So we're looking at some layer 2 protocols, which is very advanced stuff that I'm not going to get into today, but it's very interesting. There's a big reduction in the energy needs, so we don't have to mine anymore. It's just staking, just owning the nodes. And basically, ownership of ETH provides more ETH for you. It's almost like interest in a bank. So that's kind of some of the fundamentals of blockchain and a little bit about how we're trying to solve some of the problems that are inherent with, cryptocurrency mining. So now I'm going to talk just a little bit about a high-level view of blockchain gaming. So this is a very new thing that's been happening just in the last couple of years. And even though it started a few years back, it's recently, in recent months, has really, really taken off. So the first blockchain game ever launched in November 2017. I'll do an overview of that game a little further on. The Ethereum blockchain protocol, ERC20, is used in gaming for non-NFT functions. So this is the most popular blockchain, period. And the majority of the blockchains are based on the Ethereum protocols. Right now, there's some new blockchains that are emerging for gaming and some general purpose. So we've got Solana, Harmony One, Avalanche, Elrond. There's others as well. Some of these blockchains are making changes in that they're moving towards a more centralized model, and in order to achieve better performance and better scalability. So there's some trade-offs that have to happen, I think, in order for gaming to reach its full potential. NFTs, non-fungible tokens, and I'll talk about those, are based on the Ethereum ERC 721 protocol. And then there's this concept now of batch NFTs, and that's also an Ethereum protocol. That's the 1155 protocol. NFTs right now are the most common usage of blockchain in gaming. But blockchain games also use smart contracts cryptocurrencies, and DAOs, which is that decentralized autonomous organizations that I talked about earlier. So interestingly enough, the way that the industry is moving, the first AAA game is set to launch a mini web-based version in December 2021, and that will be on the Solana blockchain. So what's interesting about this is that, the games so far in blockchain have been not as robust and cinematic as, some of the popular games. So it's in their infancy right now, and they're developing it. But there's a big roadmap now for this one game that's going to be a AAA game. So let's talk about market cap. These are the top 3 blockchain game tokens or cryptocurrencies. So Axia Infinity, Decentraland, and Sandbox. Now, I took a screen grab of this to prepare for this presentation a week ago on November 17th. And at that time, the blockchain for the top 3 coins, only the top 3 coins in gaming specifically, the market cap on that was $17 billion. I looked at it again yesterday, and these are incredible numbers, but it speaks to how fast this is scaling. Yesterday, like a week later, it's now at $23.8 billion. So that's obviously a massive, massive growth. But this is the growth arc that we're talking about with the blockchain gaming. It's pretty incredible. So how is the gaming industry or the tech industry in general responding to this? What does that look like in terms of adoption? Well, in mid-October of this year, Steam, which is a very popular gaming site that, basically you go there, you buy games, you can play. There's also like a community. You can see who's playing online. You can have friends on there that you can play with, so on and so forth. Very, very popular. But in mid-October, they banned cryptocurrency games and blockchain games and NFTs. Now, the reason is because NFTs actually have real world value, and they don't want to mess around with that. So there's some risk around that, legalities, regulations, right? Like I talked about, there's challenges. We don't know what the regulation should look like. We don't know if this is okay. So they don't want to take on that risk. So they've actually banned them. Also, the executive vice president of gaming at Microsoft, and they have obviously Xbox, just recently was talking about NFTs. So what he said is, there's a lot of speculation and experimentation, and I think that's absolutely true. And he did mention that he thinks that it's somewhat exploitive with the NFTs. And I think that's interesting because if you look at the latest Halo release, if you want to buy content that you can't actually win by playing, it's over $1,000 to buy all of the content for that one game. So if we want to talk about exploitation, well, there's nuances there. There's aspects to it. Some of the industry players are all about it. October 15th, Epic Games, they're responsible for Fortnite, which is obviously a very, very large game. They have a game delivery platform as well, and they are all about blockchain games. They're absolutely going to accept them, and I think that's going to be quite the growth market for them. Also, Ubisoft, and we have a Ubisoft studio here in Winnipeg, which is exciting. They're responsible. Well, their big game is Assassin's Creed. They have a number of others, of course. They are actually one of the founding members of the Blockchain Alliance. So they are actually all about this. And they talk about the play-to-earn models, and they think this is a good idea, and they think it's going to grow the industry. So they're on board. Also, AMD, they have like 22% of the market share for computer processors. This is a screen grab from their main page, and they are absolutely looking to get in on this whole blockchain gaming, and they're going to be, tweaking their output so that it, supports this whole thing. So the industry is really split in terms of, is this a good thing or a bad thing? Do we want to get in on it? Do we want to avoid it? There's a lot of, people making decisions right now about where they stand, and that is actually shifting, as we speak. It's interesting. So let's talk about NFTs. NFTs are a big component of blockchain games. So I just want to run through basically what an NFT is. So an NFT is a non-fungible token. So fungibility means non-uniqueness. So for example, a $10 bill. So if I give you a $10 bill and you give it, you pay me back next week, that $10 bill is fungible, meaning it can be exchanged for something. And the $10 bills are more or less equal. So non-fungibility means that an item is unique. It can't be exchanged for an equal item. For example, a collectible baseball card. So fungibility implies one of a kindness. The uses the ERC tokens like we talked about, and what the NFTs, it allows for an ownership of a digital asset. So that's the exciting piece. Now, to be clear, ownership doesn't mean that people can't take a copy of that digital asset. They absolutely can. You can own a copy, but without the actual NFT that's on the blockchain saying that you have ownership, you don't own that asset. You just have a copy of it. Think of it like if you have, the painting of the Mona Lisa is the Mona Lisa. If you have, a counterfeit of the Mona Lisa that's been painted, it's not the Mona Lisa. It's a copy of it, right? So that's kind of how that works. So NFTs first kind of emerged in the art world. That was the first usage of it. And a lot of people are saying this is the future of the art world. It's going to be a component of it. So people spend actual money on NFTs. The Gucci Ghost was one of the first NFTs that came around, and initially was sold for around 3,600, and now it's selling for around 16,000. There's also 390,000 was spent for a video by Grimes. Grimes is a Canadian musician and is Elon Musk's wife, I believe, or I'm not sure if they're married, but they just had a child together. And then somebody bought a video by Beeple, which is a USA digital artist, for $6.6 million. And interestingly enough, it was sold by Christie's Auction House, which is a very, legitimate auction house. So, the art world is kind of getting in on this. At least they're dabbling. So why NFTs? How does it support the art world? Well, as an artist, it's a mechanism for you to sell your work. So what's interesting about NFTs is you can get a percentage every time it's sold. So not just the first time you sell it, every time, it gets sold down the line, you still get a percentage. As a buyer of NFTs, art NFTs, it allows you to financially support the artist that you like and that you want to support. Plus, you get bragging rights. As an art collector, it's a speculative asset. So if you buy something, it may go up in value. A potential investment. Interestingly enough, the NFL is now using NFTs for ticket stubs. So this is actually very, very recent. November 7th of this month, in the Cardinals versus 49ers game, they issued NFTs for ticket holders. Now, they're also going to do this for this big upcoming Thanksgiving game in the US. So that's a big deal for them. It's the Bears versus Lions, and they're going to issue NFL ticket stubs. So one can imagine that in the future, 20 years from now, if this is a big game, a big important game, that NFT might be quite valuable to say, yeah, I have a stub from that game, right? So I think it's interesting that an organization like the NFL is getting in on this. Like we said, it's kind of very experimental, and people are just trying to figure this stuff out right now. So it's interesting to watch this stuff unfold. In the media, there's been a lot of information or a lot of hype about NFTs, a lot of good news, bad news, criticism. Paul Logan's a YouTuber. He's been selling NFT video clips. He gets as much as 20K. There's a Kurt Cobain photo shoot, the last session. Those pics were sold as NFTs. And as a humanitarian effort, in fact, the proceeds from the NFTs that were sold from that photo shoot went to support mental health organizations. There's been articles from New York Times and Quartz Magazine that were NFTs. There's an actual tweet from the CEO of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, that is an NFT. The King of Leon's album, When You See Yourself, is an NFT. They sold as an NFT. There's been a documentary as an NFT. And then Cryptokitties, and I'll talk about this game later on, uses NFTs, and they were the first. And they made the news when a CryptoKitty was sold for $170,000 US dollars. And more recently, the NFT Pirate Bay was launched this month, and it made a big splash. I saw it in all the major news feeds. And basically, somebody decided to create a version of the Pirate Bay that contains NFTs. So let's talk about DAOs. What is a DAO? A decentralized autonomous organization. So basically, it's using blockchain to make decisions and voting. And within a DAO, it's basically a cooperative group that's bound by a set of bylaws, and the bylaws are actually programmed on the blockchain. So there's no head, there's no hierarchy, there's no overarching authority for it. And what this allows for is self-governance. And within this self-governance, it also allows you to maintain anonymity, which is kind of nice, because if you're going to vote on something, sometimes you might have a controversial vote, and it's nice to be anonymous. But essentially what a DAO is, it's a very large smart contract that's highly complex that has built-in governance. And there's a number of components. It uses DEXs, validator nodes. There's, of course, users, developers, and there's stakeholders. Some of the use cases of the DAO, which is currently in effect, there's this Discord community called Friends with Benefits. and that's a cultural crypto enthusiast, and they use it to vote on new members. So it's, invite only, and everyone votes on whether or not they want this person to join them. There's this MakerDAO, and they use it to govern their protocols, to adjust their policies, and improve governance. And MakerDAO is a DeFi application that facilitates collateral-backed loans with no intermediary. Uniswap, decentralized exchange, that's what they primarily do. They do some other stuff now, but they use it to approve the features for the platform roadmap, as in, should we implement this? Should we implement that other thing? And then collectively, everybody votes on that. There's this Flamingo NFT DAO, and they are a collective that does NFT investing, as in they buy up NFTs speculatively because they think they're going to go up in value. And they use that to approve their purchases. So the whole community votes on what they're going to buy next. So how does DAOs apply to gaming and governance in gaming? Well, DAOs are used to vote on in-game policies. They're used to vote on game development policies and protocols, as in, what feature do we implement next? Should we allow this business rule in our game? It's used for in-game guilds for voting. So guilds would be, a collection of users that have banded together and they're doing quests and all that as a group. And then they might want to vote on, what's the next quest we're going to do? Are we going to purchase this asset for our guild? There's this new concept that just came out. It's called the Yield Guild, and I've been doing a little bit of research on this. And it's basically a DAO for gamers. And it's applicable to multiple blockchain games. So it's not just for one game. It's a multi-blockchain game guild. So what they use their DAO for is to vote on what games they're going to play, what virtual assets they're going to buy, how they're going to use the assets in game. Like, say, if they're going on a mission, are we going to take this ship? Are we going to take this other ship? Whatever that looks like. And basically the scope of it is all the blockchain play to earn games. So that's a pretty broad scope. And the way this works is, if you're a guild member, you get to vote on what happens next. You participate in the quests and so on. And then, the profits that you make are distributed to you as a guild member. So what are the practical applications of DAO? What does this all mean? I mean, the stuff that we looked at doesn't seem very real world right now. But we can use DAOs to manage existing shared assets. We can use DAOs to control application protocols and do policy management. So think about like a homeowners association. If you want to vote in new members, if you want to vote in policies for the homeowner association, what statues you can allow on your lawn, that kind of thing. It's all about the voting. Now, the exciting piece for me in terms of real world applications is about voting. So in government and voting, if we were able to implement, blockchain, if we were able to vote via smart contracts, we could reduce voter fraud and inefficiencies, and we'd have verifiable audit trails, because again, you can't change it. Once someone's voted, you can't change their vote on the blockchain, and it's visible to everybody via a public ledger. We could minimize government fraud. We could digitize processes. We could also increase accountability and compliance for government officials, as in, if we log on a blockchain what they've promised, we can also log when that transaction has completed, as in they've accomplished what they've promised. And then of course we could do things around identity validation and citizen registry data integrity. And this is all, I know, very far out in the future, but it's interesting to think how we could actually use DAOs and smart contracts and blockchains to accomplish real world solve real world problems, because obviously we have challenges around all of these things. So let's talk about play to earn models. This is a new concept that's been brought in by blockchain gaming. So it's a bit of the evolution of gaming here. This little guy here is Mega Man. He's from back in the day, but he's lived on. So in terms of back in the day, interestingly enough, I want to focus on the monetization piece of it. So back in the day, you would go to the store and you would purchase your disc and you would put it into your console, and that's how you would play your game. Now, recently, as far as monetization goes, there's these in-game transactions. So for example, if you're playing a game and you want to purchase a weapon or purchase a skin, there's these game marketplaces where you can pay real world money to purchase these things. So, you give them your credit card and you buy a weapon, and, now your character looks really cool. Today, we're looking at the NFTs and decentralized marketplaces. The rest of it's all very interesting. I think the big piece for me, though, is the monetization. But we are moving towards, some really high-level, really cool technologies using VAR and AR in gaming. So virtual reality and augmented reality, cloud streaming games, AI-generated content, which is currently going on with like the Unreal Engine 5, which is a new release, which is really amazing. And then, of course, doing these massive interactive live events. And that is basically going to be, for me, the foundation of the metaverse. This is where we're evolving that metaverse. And gaming is a big piece of it, because there are these, interactive live events, which is similar to what the metaverse hopes to accomplish. So one of the aspects of, gaming and play to earn, what are we earning? Well, we're earning cryptocurrency. So cryptocurrency is a digital or virtual currency that's secured by cryptography, and it makes it almost impossible to counterfeit or double spend. Now, again, it is possible with that 51% attack that we talked about earlier, but that's very, very rare. So Bitcoin was the first cryptocurrency, and it came to public attention when WikiLeaks was banned by MasterCard and Visa in December 2010. So they changed, obviously, since they couldn't accept donations from MasterCard and Visa, they had to do something else. So they pivoted to cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, and that's when it really came to public attention. So initially, major corporations were really vilifying it, saying it's, a bad technology and this is evil and used for crime and so on and so forth. But now it's being adopted and even embraced. So some of the major companies that are adopting this are PayPal, Visa, Microsoft, and Google. And obviously, these are very, very big names. So I did a presentation, not on blockchain gaming, but on cryptocurrency and blockchain technologies in general back in June 15. And at the time, the market cap for cryptocurrency was 1.73 trillion US dollars. When I looked at it yesterday to update my information, the market cap is now 2.6 trillion US dollars. So you can see that the growth is just absolutely incredible. So how do we earn in playing blockchain games? Well, one of the models is gameplay. So if you win games or battles, you can get rewards. If you play for X amount of time, you can get rewards. If you play X number of games, you can get rewards. You can also compete in tournaments and you can get rewards for that. If you level up a rank in the game, you can get a reward for that. There is specific earning events, specialized, hey, we're doing this thing and you can earn, crypto. And there's also this thing called airdrops where the game will just send you coins, tokens, cryptocurrency, just for the heck of it. There's usually some underlying reason, but recently Gods Unchained, they had their weekend event, which was very popular. So you could earn money by playing and winning games. And they were having some network issues because of the popularity, how many people were playing. So after that happened, they said, okay, well, we're really sorry about that. And here's an airdrop of tokens. So basically everybody was rewarded for their patience and for, the difficulty that they had to endure with the network issues. But this is the reward structure for their weekend event. So, there's solid rules, what your rank is, how many wins you have to have in the first 25 games. And then this is what you get. You get these packs, and these packs are packs of cards, and the cards can be, are worth, tokens, and they can be bought and sold on marketplaces. So that's one method of the play to earn model. Now, there's also NFTs as play to earn. So NFTs are digital assets. And some examples of that would be a card, a character, land, user accounts, interestingly enough, can be NFTs and can be bought and sold. And in-game items like ships, like stations, equipment, weapons, skins, etc. All kinds of things. Anything you can imagine. You can buy a cat. That's an in-game item, and it's an NFT. They can be bought and sold, and that's how you could potentially make money if you buy low and sell high. They can be created by a breeding program. So if you have two NFTs, you could potentially combine them and create a new NFT. They also can be rented or leased, particularly in the case of land, but also ships and equipment. NFTs are traded on DEXs, which is a decentralized exchange, and they have real world value as they can be converted to standard currencies via the DEXs. Another way that you can earn money in blockchain gaming is by quests. So players can earn rewards by completing quests or, quest quotas. And the rewards can be the native cryptocurrency tokens, and each game basically has their own, with the exception of Axia Infinity that uses ETH. And rewards could also be in-game items that can be sold for cryptocurrency. So that's another way that you can earn. There's also, this is kind of a complicated concept, but there's staking and liquidity pools. So liquidity pools, LPs, are mechanisms for users to pool their resources, assets together. And ultimately, this liquidity is being used by traders to swap between currencies and making money. So the traders will earn profits based on their trades, and then the profits are paid out to the contributors to the liquidity pool. And then these tokens, once you join the liquidity pool, they're locked into these smart contracts. So that's, kind of how you can do that. Some games have these concepts of the LPs. There's also within games, there's individual staking. So You're not part of a pool, but ultimately the mechanism's the same. Your your crypto is being used to make money for someone else. And it's basically like earning interest. You put your money into a fund or a pool or a place, and someone else uses it and they make money, and then you get a cut of it. So let's look at some of the blockchain games. Cryptokitties was the first blockchain game that was launched. And interestingly enough, it was launched by a studio that eventually became Dapper Labs, and that's out of Vancouver. So the first cryptocurrency game ever, blockchain game, came out of Vancouver. And this one uses NFTs, and these are the digital cats. So how do you earn in this particular game? It's a play to earn. You can do the breeding program, as in you can breed your Cryptokitties and produce a new Cryptokitty, which you can then buy and sell on the marketplace. And you can also purchase cards, again, buy low, sell high. For this one I mentioned earlier, the highest price, NFT cat sold for $170,000 US, and it made a big splash in the media. So some of the milestones that they had achieved by October 2018, and again, they launched in 2017, almost a year later, they had 1 million cats bred. They had 3.2 million smart contract transactions. So that would be the exchanging of cards. And reportedly, and I can't nail down this number or verify it, but reportedly they had millions of daily active users at that point. So what's interesting about Cryptokitties is that it was actually the source of bringing to light the scalability issues, performance issues on the Ethereum network, because this was actually the first mass adoption of the Ethereum network. And at one point, it was actually 25% of all transactions on that entire network. And this one uses the native ETH token as opposed to having its own specialized in-game token. Axia Infinity is another big game. It was launched in March of 2018 by a studio called Sky Mavis. This one uses NFTs as well. So you have these cute little digital Axie creatures, and you can battle them and you can breed them. So the play to earn is that breeding program. Again, you can combine two of them, breed them, produce an egg, the egg hatches, and then you have a new NFT. You can also go on quests and earn rewards that way. They have a liquidity pool staking model. And you can buy land now. That's kind of recent, but you can buy land as an NFT in the game. The highest price Axie sold for $120,000 US. And some of the milestones that they've achieved recently, it actually became the first NFT game to hit $1 billion in sales. And they have over 1 million daily active users. I apologize for that dollar sign. That's a typo. But yeah, over 1 million daily active users. That's what they achieved in August 2021. Even though they launched in 2018, it's been in recent months that they've really, really kind of blown up and grown in popularity. And one of the reasons for this is it was the subject of an award-winning documentary. And I've watched this documentary recently. It was really interesting. Play to Earn, NFT Gaming in the Philippines. You can find this on YouTube. And it was basically published in May 13th, 2021. Now, what happened in the Philippines was when the pandemic hit and there was lockdowns, a lot of people lost their ability to earn money. And, it was kind of a crisis for them. So in this one town, this one enterprising young man came across this Axia Infinity, started playing it, and basically told everybody in his city about it. And it really kind of blew up there. And ultimately, at one point, the majority of this town was playing Axia Infinity, and they were earning, their money that way. It's really an interesting documentary. I recommend watching it. So they use two tokens. They have their Smooth Love Potion, which is the utility token, as in the reward token within the game. And they also have a Axia Infinity token, which is the governance token. So if you own these tokens, then you can vote on the DAO. You're part of the governance community. So you can decide with the tokens what kind of impact you want to have in the game. Is it just you want to play the game and you make the cryptocurrency and that's your smooth love potion? Or do you actually want to have control over how the game goes and policies and protocols? And that would be the Axia Infinity governance token. So some fun facts. They just recently, in May, raised $7.5 million of Series A funding. And Mark Cuban was one of the major contributors to that. Now, Mark Cuban is a billionaire. He owns a sports franchise. He is on Shark Tank. He seems to be a pretty bright guy. So he is invested in Axia Infinity, and he's really, really keen on it. He's really keen on this play to earn model. He's really keen on people making money while playing video games as opposed to spending money. Now, what's interesting, what came out of the Axia Infinity was because the fact that the tokens increased in value, the cost of entry into the game became like $300 to $500 USD, because you need to purchase 3 Axie creatures in order to play. So there's 3 fellows from that same town that adopted Axia Infinity in the Philippines, and they came up with Axia University, and they created Axia University. So they created this scholarship program, but basically what this means is you can apply for a scholarship there, and you can pay a small fee, and they will loan you Axies that they own, and you can play them and earn money. So that's really interesting to me, because what they're trying to do is, if the cost of entry gets too high, they're trying to offset that by saying, even if you don't have, 500 USD to buy Axies and play, you can still play and you can still earn money, which I think is really interesting. And Axia Infinity was actually the largest NFT sale transaction ever. In February 2021, 9 plots of land were sold for $1.5 million. So the largest single transaction. Obviously, there's been, if you accumulate transactions in other games, it's more than 1.5 million, but this was a single transaction for $1.5 million. Another game is Gods Unchained. So this one was launched in June 2018 by a studio called Immutable, and this one uses NFTs that are digital cards. So the play-to-earn model here is in the gameplay. You can win battles, you earn cards. They also do airdrops, and you, of course, can buy and sell your cards. So some statistics as of November 24th, 2021. The Gods token right now is worth, 5.54 US dollars per token. The market cap is $131 million. And the 24-hour trading volume yesterday was 22 million US dollars. So you can see it's a very, very active game. And interestingly enough, this one was created by Chris Clay, and he happens to be the former game director for Magic the Gathering Arena, which is the online version of Magic the Gathering, which is a very popular card game. So he's super legitimate in terms of, that whole, dimension of the game. So that's interesting to me. So Star Atlas is the AAA game that I touched on. It will be the first AAA blockchain game ever launched if all goes as planned. So they have a roadmap. They've done some interesting stuff. They have delivered so far what they said they were going to deliver, but it's very ambitious. So we'll see how that goes. But this one uses NFTs and in-game items of all kinds. So, skins, ships, mining stations, ship repair stations, weapons, you name it, all kinds of items. It also uses DAO to do game policy and in-game guilds. And there's the play-to-earn models here, gameplay, airdrops, buy and sell in-game assets, land leasing, staking, liquidity pools, you name it. They're going all out with exploring all of the aspects of play-to-earn, and I feel like they're going to be inventing some new play-to-earn models as well. So the Yield Guild games that I talked about earlier, which is that collective of gamers, they have purchased $1 million of in-game assets. And their NFT ship sale that they had recently, they sold over $20 million of ships, NFT ships. So the next step in their whole roadmap is for a mini web-based version, and it's going to launch in December. And they have 2 tokens as well. They have a utility token, and they have the Polis, which is the governance token. So again, with the governance token, you can just make decisions on the direction of the game, features that are implemented, policies, so on and so forth. So what is Star Atlas? It's a space fantasy role-playing game with a real money economy and NFT assets. This is from the marketing material. It's a grand strategy game, politics, trade routes, economically productive territories, 24/7 virtual economy where players can come together in real time to trade, form contracts, and engage in battle. And it will be a fully immersive 3D world with film quality powered by the Unreal Engine. So the Unreal Engine has just recently made some incredible strides in what they're doing. And it's very interesting to see where they're going to go with all of that. So what does all of this have to do with the metaverse? Very good question. What is the metaverse? Well, the term metaverse was coined by sci-fi author Neal Stephenson's 1992 novel, Snow Crash. I'm a big fan of Neal Stephenson. I think this is a very good novel, so I encourage you to read it. In terms of pop culture, it was popularized in Ernest Cline's 2011 sci-fi novel, Ready Player One. And that book was then made into a movie in 2018, and it made $580 million worldwide. So it was very popular. This is a quote from Ready Player One. It was the dawn of a new era, one where most of the human race now spent all of their free time inside a video game. So this is essentially what the metaverse is. The metaverse is a digital world. And you can see by this, poster here that, we're looking at the real people, and then we're looking at their avatars and how they interact in the real world. So I don't know if you've seen this movie, but it's a wildly entertaining movie. Some of the characteristics of the metaverse, it combines multiple elements of technology. So we're talking about virtual reality, augmented reality, the use of avatars, and ultimately the users will live in this digital universe. Things they will do there. What do you do in the metaverse? Well, you can play games, you can go shopping, buy real world items and digital items. Education and training has its applications. You can socialize, you can work, and you can, view entertainment. So go to a dance party, go to a concert, go to a play, do some gambling. Sorry, type 1 the gambling. So rather than talk about the metaverse projects that are going on, I just want to talk a little bit about some of the players, because I think that knowing who's actually interested in this space will give you some indication of how important some people think this is. So Facebook, they actually rebranded their organization name to Meta, and they've been making a whole bunch of noise about the metaverse, and they actually really want to own this space. Microsoft has announced that they're working to build an enterprise metaverse. So for me, this looks like, not a lot of detail on this, but this looks to be a work world. So I know there's been a lot of information, a lot of controversy around this work from home model. Well, an enterprise metaverse, you could work from home, but actually be, at work, which I think is interesting. So Xbox VP, this Phil Spencer fellow that talks about NFTs being exploitive, has also talked about planning for a mixed reality construct, which is actually a metaverse. And I'm not quite sure how he plans to implement that without the use of NFTs. So we'll see how that goes. NVIDIA built this platform called Omniverse, and basically it connects different 3D worlds. And they say this is going to be the plumbing or the infrastructure on which the metaverse could be built. So Snap, that owns Snapchat, they've unveiled some augmented reality glasses. It's not for the public yet, but the developers are actually working on the experiences. So you can see that there are some major players working in this space, and over the next upcoming few years, it will be really interesting to see how this all plays out. So what does gaming and the metaverse have to do with each other? Well, for me, blockchain gaming is going to pave the way. This is my opinion, because gamers are very, very engaged. They're very active in their communities. They're very forward thinking, and they're very committed to their games. So that's why I think, gaming has a real shot to be laying some of the foundation. The fact that they're using all of these interesting models, they're implementing them, they're learning things. Everybody else is going to learn from that. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. So, sorry I had to go through that so quickly. Like I said, there's a lot to go over here, but I hope that what you got out of this was that there's some interesting things to keep an eye on, and just sort of explore, do your own research. I just think all of this is fascinating. But yeah, thank you very much for listening. And I think we're ready to go to questions now. So I'm just going to go ahead and stop sharing.
Hi, Sheila. I hope you can hear me. I had to switch my tech setup at the last second. Thanks so much for wow, you did pack a lot in there. And I know that whenever I get anywhere close to this subject, my head always starts to hurt because it's so complicated and so nuanced and complex. I was wondering if you could maybe tell our audience, like, how do you stay abreast on all the developments and all the moving parts to this, and what's a way for people to approach this kind of controversial subject in earnest and get the right information? Do you have some kind of thoughts on resources or places that people could look?
Yeah, I do. So in regards to blockchain gaming, I do have a bit of an edge because I have been researching blockchain technologies for at least 4 years now. So I have the foundation down. But for me, there's a few things. So I read a lot of white papers. All the gaming companies, blockchain games, they put out white papers. And being an IT consultant, I've read many white papers. So I have a bit of a talent for being able to read a white paper. It's pretty dry stuff for a lot of people, right? So there's that. I also actually belong to an invite-only blockchain gaming Discord channel. So the members there will post interesting information, and then I'll go and research it. And then, I do a lot of Googling, and I Google specific companies in relation to, blockchain gaming. So I will go and I'll say, okay, well, what's Microsoft doing with blockchain right now? And I can find a lot of good information about that. When you're doing your research, it's really important that you are working with, reputable sources, that you're verifying the information and going to multiple sources to say, yes, this is a true statement, right? Because there is a lot of, there's a lot of information, propaganda, I don't know, rhetoric out there that's intended to fuel the FOMO and the FUD. So the FOMO is the fear of missing out, and the FUD is the fear of uncertainty and doubt. So these two things are happening. There's propaganda. So I would just say be careful, and just make sure that you're going to reputable sources.
I think the two biggest concerns that the public seems to raise is the energy problem that you touched upon at the beginning, and perhaps the inequity that might be caused from this. Could you maybe talk about like what perceivable pain points there might be for players in the future when it comes to maybe our current mindset that games are a leveling platform, that as we compete based on our merits, and now there's another element being introduced to it where maybe there's some things that are out of our control in regards to, like, my character can't be as good as someone unless I put in a certain amount of sweat equity or money into my character. Are there some how are companies going to kind of address those sorts of issues, do you think?
Well, that's actually a really interesting question, because there are whales in the cryptocurrency community, right? So let's say that a game launches and they're like, okay, we're going to sell these in-game assets and they're going to help you win and earn more money. Well, what's stopping the whales from coming in and buying all of that up and making it impossible for others to succeed in the game? That's entirely a thing that has happened, that will continue to happen, but it is being addressed in a number of ways. So one of the things that games are doing is they are making you qualify for auctions. So you might go to an auction to purchase some in-game items, but you have to qualify. So you have to own, you have to have a stake in it. You have to have some skin in the game. So that's helpful. It's not just, somebody coming in and swooping. They have to be part of that community and invested in it to begin with, right? The other thing is that Axia University model where, where people that can't afford entry into the game can actually use the good game in-game assets and win. I think that's a really interesting model, and I think that more games are going to implement that kind of model as it grows, more popular. I think that's a really good way to do it, because you're removing that barrier to entry, because not everybody has $500 to buy 3 Axies with, right? So I think that's really, really good, and you don't even need to pay up front. Like, you can just say, okay, well, I'm going to use your characters, earn some money, and then you get a cut of my profits, right? So I think that's good as well. What I think needs to happen, and this is just my opinion, is I think that they need to introduce staking. So I think that you need to have been invested in staking for a specific amount of time on a single IP in order to qualify for an auction. And that way you can remove the possibility of whales coming in and, scooping up all the assets. But I think that over time, we're going to develop new mechanisms for solving these problems. And I think that's the whole point. I think that's why it's very exciting.
I know it's been very interesting for me to watch my daughter start to get into games. So she's 9 years old, and like, I see the metaverse already, and it's called Roblox as far as I'm concerned. And I can see how gaming has changed from something that was, first, like when I first started gaming, it was something solitary, and now it's, then it evolved to something where, okay, I can talk to people online, and now it seems to be much deeper than that. Would you say that, like, so much around like NFTs and the blockchain seems to be kind of based on like a scarcity model, like, and it's an artificial scarcity that was, there was certainly existed in the fine art world, right? Like, there's a lot of paintings sitting in vaults all over the place that are doing nothing but accruing value for kind of unknown reasons. Why do you think people are so concerned about like art and NFTs, and how people are maybe getting, like, maybe not the artists, but that people are getting, fortunes are being made very quickly on something that people don't quite understand the value in? Like, can you talk a little bit about that scarcity model and how it might kind of relate to like kind of human nature?
Yeah. So the thing with the art world is, a lot of people believe that the actual art world is all about money laundering. That's a very common sentiment, right? So that same sentiment or that same suspicion is, of course, being applied to NFT art. And I don't think it's wrong. And I think, as far as, the scarcity model, I really do think we're in an NFT bubble, which is fine. And I think it will burst at some point, because I think right now it's all very experimental. So what I think is, once the bubble bursts, just like the .com bubble, there will be legitimate companies left standing that will be kind of the backbone of the new NFT world, because I think NFTs are going to be a component of the world going forward. I just think we haven't quite gotten it right just yet. And it would be really unfortunate if NFTs ended up like artwork, like you said, with the scarcity, and like I said, with the money laundering, right? But the reality is, all objects in the world, digital objects or real objects, are only worth what people are willing to pay for them, right? And right now it seems that because it's so speculative and people have that FOMO, that fear of missing out, people want to get in on the ground floor, and they're maybe paying more than things are worth. But things are worth what people are willing to pay for ultimately. So we'll have to see how all of that evolves.
Okay, we have a question from the audience here. What blockchain do you think will have the most of the market in the future?
Well, this is just my opinion, but based on my research, the fact that most blockchains are based on the Ethereum protocols says a lot about the utility of the Ethereum chain. And for me, my money's on that. And I also maybe have a bit of a bias because Ethereum was created by a Canadian, Vitalik Buterin. And I'm a big fan of Canadian innovation, so I might have a bias. But yeah, I'm bullish on Ethereum.
Well, good. That's where my crypto wallet's at. So I encourage everyone to buy lots of Ethereum today and push it up. Like the environmental considerations, do you really think that is going to is that something that is going to disappear, like, or be mitigated or disappear? Because I think a lot of people don't necessarily kind of think about the environmental consequences of tech in general, right? But with this, it's kind of been brought to the forefront. I mean, every time, this event has a footprint, right? Every time a server spins up somewhere, it's being powered by energy. Do you think that these new models that you mentioned are going to really kind of take that off the table as a point of criticism?
Well, I think it's two things. I think it's the new models, the moving to proof of stake. I also think that part of the reason why people are so concerned about the environmental impacts of blockchain as opposed to other things is because those other things they view as having value, right? So yeah, Google servers use up a lot of energy. Yeah, your car uses energy. Like everything we do is bad for the environment, but the perception is those things have value. So I think as the value of the blockchain technology emerges, I think that people will understand that there's trade-offs, just like with any technology. Yes, it's bad, but it does good things. For instance, this whole notion of people in the Philippines being able to feed their families during the pandemic because of playing a video game. Sure, it's bad for the environment, but these are real people with real needs, right? So those are the two things I think. There's further adoption and people understand it more, there's that. And then, of course, the understanding that it actually has value and it's important. That's my opinion.
Great. Well, I want to be conscious of everyone's time. We are hitting the 1 hour or the 1 o'clock mark. I'll just do a quick call for any last questions from the audience. I think this is a great opportunity to ask a very technical question that would probably be beyond me. But I'll just say before we wrap up, this was a really insightful and really informational packed episode you brought us today, Sheila. So I just want to thank you for presenting it all in such a approachable fashion and kind of from all angles. I think that really goes a long way for us. And I mean, whether we like it or not, it seems like it's here to stay for gaming anyway. And I mean, that's certainly the sector that we've invested a lot of efforts in. So yeah, I'm curious to see how this plays out, especially with, of course, Ubisoft being in town and sort of putting such a big stake into NFTs. So before we leave, Sheila, maybe give us all like one last thought about how we can talk to our friends and our families about what an NFT is, or what is blockchain. Like, how do you have these conversations with lay people and kind of explain what these things are going to do in a practical way, like in a way that's going to have meaning to people's lives down the road?
Yeah, I usually try to relate it to kind of real world use cases, right?
Mm-hmm.
I try to, show them examples of, because they'll come up with why things are bad, and I try and show them examples. Well, sure, but there's a counterpoint, right? So I think it's always about balance. There's always going to be two sides, well, three sides to every story, right? So, it's important to evaluate all the perspectives. So I just really encourage people to not take one fact about blockchain, one fact about cryptocurrency, and that's all they know about it. Just keep an open mind, do your own research, and be open. The future is going to happen whether we want it to or not. And the fact that there's these big industry players that are, really invested in seeing it happen, I just think it's kind of inevitable. So rather than just be swept along by the tides of change, why not understand what's happening so that we can have a voice in it, right? My big concern is if the tech companies decide how the metaverse works without any input from real people, bad things are going to happen. That's kind of my opinion. That's why I like the gaming models, because gamies are they're very invested.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time and your expertise today, Sheila, and thank you to our audience for joining us. I hope you all had an informative session, and follow our subscribe to our newsletter, and you'll stay attuned to all the great events that we have coming up in 2021 and 2022 beyond. We've got lots of great stuff in store for everyone. So have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll talk to you everyone soon.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Hi, Sheila.